First things first, I'm using Blender 2.8 instead of 2. No, 2.7. No, 2.79, which is the default. It is the up-to-date current. 2.8 is the beta for the next version. I used it mainly because sometimes I just want to mess around with it, get used to it, get to know it, and that's what I did. This is what I'll be doing with you. I'll walk you through how I did this generally, and then I'll take you into like everything else. But I am using 2.8. That doesn't mean you can't use 2.79. Yes. It works just as well in there. The only difference is there is a bloom effect in 2.8. If I go into rendered view, you can see that. SID render view. Hold up. Sorry, I don't really have any programs to edit this video in other than Blender itself, but I don't have the time for that. That was glass. I need emission, turn it up. We're gonna do this anyway. I guess I need to restart. Okay. And if I turn my image up, you'll see there's a glare. That is bloom. I don't really know how to define bloom, but that's the only thing that is not in 2.79. I used Eevee render as well. There's cycles. It runs like that. There is, well, there's Blender render, but that's not in actual Eevee, or not in 2.8. But I used Eevee render for this. And I will generally show you how I did this. This light will be in here properly like it was, but I'll go about that now. Startup file, new, general. There's no reason for you to use the other ones. I mean, you can, but it would probably just make it harder because we're not going to use any of those tools. We'll keep the default cube. I'll use G and then Z to go on the Z axis to lift it up. Shift A to open in the add menu. Plane, S. I'll size it around 10. In the top left, it'll show you scale X, Y, and Z, or you can just hit 1, 0. Y10, I don't know, it's just generally what I use because I don't know. I don't have a reason. Cube. We'll bring it down. It doesn't matter where it's at. I just don't want it in the way. So I'm going to name this cube hair. I'm going to name the top cube the cube. The plane can stay plain. Now we're going to use this bottom cube as a object for our hair. So this will be literally whatever hair looks like, and we'll fix it up to make it look nice. And then this will be, I guess, our glowing ball, unless we want a hair. Let's do this. G, Z, we'll bring it up a little bit. If I hit period on the D-pad, it'll zoom in on it. Let's size it down, just to have it a little small. We'll go into our materials tab, new material. Make sure it doesn't use the old material. Go to emission, and I'm just going to turn it up to like 10. Z, go to rendered, and see what that looks like. Now, I also want this light to be inside of it, so this belt looking tab will be, so the light is the light, of course. If you go into objects, its material is this, the object is the bounding box looking icon. Then you got your modifiers, which is the wrench, particles, things coming out of a ball, things going around the ball is the physics. This is vertexes and stuff. But on the light, we're gonna go to the gear with the belt around it. We're gonna go to child of in the relationships. We're gonna take the dropper, select the sphere, and now it is parented to it. So if I move this sphere with G, it moves with it. That's wrong tab. The location and rotation, all of that is no longer of the object. It is now the position of the object from what it is parented to. So if it's at 1, it's no, that's the wrong one. If it's at 1, it is 1 space away from the circle compared to its size. The rotation will always stay in its own, but the location will not. So I'm going to go ahead and make everything 0. And it should be inside of the sphere now. Now, because the sphere is emission, it's not going to have a shadow, therefore the light will go through it. So not causing any problems with the light being inside of it. If we select this and move it around, we can see the light follows. Now, if we hide the light, it's not going to emit, even though that the sphere has an emission shader. That does not work on Eevee. But if I go into the render tab, I believe, yes, render tab, and go to bloom, it gives this little halo, which we will get into later. But right now we have our cube, we have our sphere with the light. That's pretty much all done. We'll animate it later. And we have our plane. We're going to take the plane, going into the emissions, the particles, which is this one right here. Go to the plus. Instead of emitter, we're going to use hair. Hair length doesn't matter. Segments, we can put it all the way down. That's like segments is where it bends at. And because we're going to have one solid object that doesn't have any bend points, it's not going to bend. So that'll take down render time and just computing time. Yeah. Go to render. Take render as, make that path. We're going to make it object. Instance object will be this cube. Now we have it. If we size it, everything's going to change. If we do anything to it, it will change everything else. So we're going to size it to the y-axis. Why the y-axis? I don't know why. I didn't like that sentence. For some reason, the y-axis is up and down on this plane. I don't really know about that. Hit tab to go into edit mode, and we're going to move this along the y-axis till it sits about right there. Tab, close that, and then you have all this. Now that we generally have what we want, we're going to organize it. So what I would do is go to source in your emissions tab, turn on even distribution. It is on, but if you turn it off, it's even. I don't know why that is. It's messed up, unless it's supposed to be like that, and I don't understand. Now that we have that, I'm going to go and take this number that the amount of hairs we have, and half it. I only need about 500. We're going to go down to children. There's simple, and then there's interpolated. Interpolated is more in depth. Simple is simple, but for some reason simple clumps. I don't know why. It hasn't always done that for me. Maybe it's because I've had more hairs that I haven't noticed, but we're going to go to interpolated, and we're going to we can go ahead and size this up if you want to kind of spread everything out, because I don't really want it clipping each other. And so that's what all this right here is it's clipping inside of each other. The only way to fix that is to take them outside of each other, but it doesn't really bother me because no matter what, they're going to be inside of each other because I'm generally going to just throw them everywhere, and that there's no real... I can turn physics on where they collide with each other, but because of the way they're positioned, that would probably cause problems. And there's no real reason to fix it. Render scale randomness. Turn that up a little bit. And there you go. Now not everything's even. You have some clipping here and there, but not that bad. Plus, it's not all even. Therefore, it looks a little more natural. And I like it. Let's go back to the sphere that we had, and we'll go to the physics tab, and you'll turn on force field. I'm going to turn it on to the strength of 10. Reset the frames. It's not fixing itself. Hold on. Let's do this. If it doesn't change and it doesn't work, turn on hair dynamics and then turn it off. We'll have to do this probably a couple times. But because we have this force field on and then we turned on and off hair dynamics, so the hair dynamics are currently off. Now the hairs move away from the force field because I have this force field set to push things. And we're close, but we don't necessarily want it to do that because, one, it's pushing everything around it and not just this circle. So to fix that, we can go back into the force field settings in the physics tab and go to fall off. Use maximum, turn maximum up, and you'll get a circle around it. You see right there. I'm put it around here. That's good. And so now when we move that, it only touches what's in it. But if we go to top view, which is 7 on the D-pad, you can see it only affects what's in it. Nothing behind it or anything. It doesn't leave a trail of what was moved. Everything that's being pushed or immediately fixed as soon as it leaves. That's what dynamics fixes. It gives it real physics to where if something is pushed, it now has momentum. So we'll go in the particles tab, hair dynamics, turn it on, and you're not going to see change no matter what you move or whatever until you push play. Now as you can see, they're kind of waving back and forth because they're being pushed. And if I grabbed the wrong one. If you grab the sphere and you drag it across, you'll see it kind of pushes and they fix themselves. Now they're never going to stop moving. They're just going to keep moving because they don't really have a damping. Well, maybe they'll stop a little bit. Okay. But they'll generally probably move for the rest of the animation if it's only a few seconds long. Let's move this down, more in it, more close. I'm going to go to the force field settings again, and I think I'm going to turn it up to 30. There we go. Get more of a push to it. And this is generally it. This is generally all I did. Now, in animating, you can move around, keyframe, keyframe, keyframe. Or, if you go in the top view, which is 7 on the D-pad again, and then if you hit 5, it goes to 3D view and flat view. I believe it's called orthographic view. I don't remember. There's also a button right here. I believe if I hit, hold on. I don't really know, but shortcut key is 5. Get used to using shortcut keys if you don't already, because they make workflow so much faster. A lot faster. So grab your sphere. Hit this, it has a really long name, but it's basically a record button. Hit it, push play, G, and move your object around however you want it. Unless you want it to be like precise, then you can go back and animate yourself. But what I did is I just got it and flung it around. And now it's animated. I can do this. And it's already animated and all that. Now this hair is not cached or animated. It's the sphere. So generally, if we want to change something without changing the movements of that, we can. We have all these keyframes which are unnecessary, but there's no real reason to fix them or minimize them. Now, if you watch, you can see it jitter from frame to frame, but that's because we have a keyframe on each. There's no empty keyframe for it to estimate where it should go, because every keyframe is filled, it goes there immediately. If that kind of makes sense. Let's do this. We're gonna select sphere, we're gonna go to the force field, we're gonna turn it up just more. And you can see that it immediately still affects. I kind of like that more. Oh, it's kind of fun to watch the bottom side too, just randomly spurt out wherever it goes. But I kind of like that a little more, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave it that way. You can leave it or at that. You can put your strength at whatever you want. It's completely up to you. It doesn't really matter. So now that we have that, we can cache it, because I'm happy with this. This is how I'm going to have it look. And so in order to do that, we'll select our hair, go to our particles, go to cache, which is right here, bake. Now the loading bar is at the bottom. It's no longer at the top if you did use the old Blender before, or the current Blender. Which I keep forgetting. But now it's cached, and so now even if this isn't here, it's still going to do that. But it makes it run faster for you, and if you mess with something, it won't screw everything up. And it's consistent and will always stay the same. Z to open just your shading menu. Shift Z in Blender, in any of the blenders except for 2.8, Shift Z is rendered view. Rendered. Oh, let's turn the light back on. Forgot to turn that back on. There you go. Looks cool. I like it. I'm in Eevee Render, so we'll have a lot of different choices. So we have ambient, which very slightly changes it. So I will try and show you. Okay. If you look right here, there is this dark shadow. Now that's because of ambient occlusion. Now if you turn it off, it's not there. So basically the closer things are, the darker shadow it creates. Well, ambient occlusion takes that into factor and makes sure that happens. You can turn it on or off. It depends how high quality your thing's going to be. I had it on, but it was too far and too fast for it to even matter. But it also made my computer take forever, because it had so many of these and all these that it took longer when it didn't even really need it. I'm going to turn bloom on. I mean, no real reason not to. I just kind of like it. Let's go into this. It's at 10. Okay. I'll leave it at 10. Turn bloom off. You can kind of see it making a bloom off of these reflections too. You can turn subsurface reflections on, and that will literally just like put reflections on everything ever so slightly. But with what we're doing, we won't need it. Ambient occlusion, we talked about. Depth of field, no. We won't. I mean, I'll show you how to use depth of field to make this different. No, I won't. If you want to learn how to do that, say something. I'll do that. It's real short. Subsurface is for using a subsurface modifier, specifically scattering, so textures and stuff. Screen face. I thought I just went over this. I'm sorry. But yeah, ever so slight reflection. So like right here, it's reflecting that block. I kind of like it, so I'm going to leave it on. Motion blur, that's just motion blur. I like having motion blur, but it takes more out of it. And volumetric, that is lighting. I'm going to turn that on. Volumetric lighting you can do in any other blender as well, that I believe. I've always been able to do it, but I've never really paid attention to which blender updates I was on. I just kind of updated the newest one and kept working. That's everything, okay? We're going to take this here, we're going to take it out of render and take it out of view. That's the sphere. Take it out of view and render, because we don't need to see that. This camera, let's move it. If you hit O on the, what's it called? Numpad. View lock camera. If you hit O on the numpad, it will lock you. It'll put the camera on. Camera view. Let's do this. Put that back. And I'm gonna hit O again to leave it. Now if I'm in the camera, it's gonna move if I touch it. So if you want it to stay where it's at and you're afraid you'll accidentally move it, I would go back to view again and just turn off camera view. And now it won't move it. I generally want it there. Let's push play and just watch it. I like it. It's got everything I need in view, so I'll call it good. We're gonna select this hair in our scene collection. What's it called? Outliner. Our outliner. Go to materials, new material, make sure it's new, and make it whatever color I want. Let's do that. I'm going to take the plane and a new material, and I just kind of want to make it red, so that it's red underneath. Let's make it brownish red. That's technically orange, isn't it? There we go. I like that. Now let's skip around here. Okay, let's go. Okay. I wasn't sure if screen face projection would change that any. It seems to add a little bit of depth. I've always just turned it on because I don't know, I liked it on some things, and in this case it seems to add more depth to it. In certain spaces it's just kind of all mixed up in the same color, but doing this makes it a bit darker and lighter in some sections. I don't know why that is, I just know that it does. Now that we have that, we're going to create another cube. Shift A. Cube. I'm going to size it up till it... Oh, that might have been too big. Yep. Size it down. Size it up till it engulfs the camera. Go in. Go to material for the cube. We're going to new, surface, remove. So now we're going to volume, volume scatter. Everything will get dark. Make sure volumetric is on. Otherwise it won't work. Now it's completely dark. I don't know why. Density 0.1. And it's kind of like a fog. The closer you get, the easier you can see. The further you get, the harder it is to see. Now it's a bit too much, so let's go 0.01. I'm going to make this a blue, simply because I want to. Alright, let's raise this. It's going to actually be inverted. I don't know why that is. So this is pretty much what it does. Density 100. You shouldn't be able to see. Okay. But I will set it at 0.01, and it's going to kind of give it a bloom to it, pretty much, for the emission object. Not for anything else, just the emission object. So if I turn this lamp, not the actual object, but the lamp, we'll go to the settings and turn the brightness up, you're going to see that it's going to cause more of a bloom to it. Now this is how I used to get bloom in old Blender, but now there's an actual bloom thing there. I'm going to leave it at that. I like it. Push play. It's going to, well, it's running just as smooth. Well, there you go. That's pretty much it. Now, okay, hold on. I'm going to turn off bloom, and we're going to watch it again. Now, if you see, there's a trail of light. I literally don't know why that is. But just fun fact, that's going to be there. I don't know why. I have never had that in other Blenders, only in 2.8. But there you go. I hope that helped. If it didn't, or if it's confusing, or if it's just not good, send a message. I'll do my best. I don't usually talk in recordings, and so I'm not very good at explaining and stuff like that. So thank you for actually saying something about my animations. It means a lot. Most people just like it and move on, but it helps to hear that people are interested in the same thing and that we can talk about it. I don't know. I find it fun and interesting. So thank you for being curious, and I hope this helps. In editing this for you, I went to render this, and you can see it's very filled. There's a lot more than that showed up in the actual doing it. This is the file that I used to make this. But what I forgot was in the emission settings in children, the display amount is this right here, whether you're in render view or not, and the render amount is what's in the final view. So usually before I'm done, I would hit render image and see how it goes before actually rendering thing, but I forgot to do that, and I forgot to explain that. So just a mistake that I forgot was the render amount. I because I didn't want a lot, I went ahead and did exactly what I wanted to see in the final view, and I forgot to change the final view's actual parameter. So 1010, that's what I have it at. It's up to you, but the bottom one will be the final. This is just the view, the top one. Mainly the reason why there's two is so that if you do want it to be a lot more in the final, it's not working so hard on your computer just to edit it. But I forgot to say that, so sorry.